Hello YouTube. I know it's been a while. A year hasn't been easy. I've been in and out of a lot of things, but yeah. So I'm making this video to go through how to install Flutter on Windows 11 again, specifically on the latest version 22H2, I believe. And this is going to include the installation of Visual Studio. Because the last video I did, Visual Studio wasn't a requirement, and I realized there were some confusions between the two in general. So without much delay, let's get into it. So we are going to open your favorite browser, and we are going to head on to flutter.dev. So as usual, this is where you're going to download Flutter from. Just hit get started, and then of course this is Windows, so we are going to select Windows, and then you make sure you meet the basic requirements here, okay, and then you simply click on download the Flutter Windows SDK. So at the time of this recording, it is 3.3.10. In the near future, this is going to be different. So if you're watching this video in the future, just download whatever version that you have, and let's hope in the near future installation of Flutter is more streamlined and easier to install. Okay, so once you have this downloaded, we also need to get Visual Studio Code. Now this is not a requirement. This is just a preferred text editor that I like to use because it's lightweight, and yeah, that's probably the main reason. It has a lot of interesting plugins and it's just cool to use. And so you just hit on this and you download the latest version. Now this is Visual Studio, not Code but Visual Studio. So this is a full-blown integrated IDE. You can use this to code so many things, so many languages, okay? But because Flutter supports Windows development and it needs some of the core features it provides, so something like C++ developers for Windows. So it's one of the main reasons why you need this. You don't need it to code, okay? Much like if you choose not to use Android Studio to code, you still need it to install certain things for you, okay? So that's just the main difference. This is an IDE integrated development environment, okay? And then Visual Studio Code is just like a text editor. Think of your Sublime Text, brackets, kind of a Notepad++, stuff like that, okay? Very lightweight and doesn't really include a lot of integrations, but something like Visual Studio is a full-blown IDE packed with a lot of things, a lot of tooling, and a whole lot. So I cannot stress that more. So while you are here, you need to download the community edition, because this is a trial that you have to pay, and this is also a trial you need to pay, okay? So this is free for individual developers, academic users, and open sources. Of course, you will not get all the features. You get the core that you need. So you click on this, or if you are going through, you can also click on this, okay? It's a very tiny download. Then you can also go ahead to this link. I'll link all of these in the description so that you just follow them, and then this is where you go ahead and download Android Studio. Make sure you read through all of this, check this, and then you hit on that download, and then finally you download Git. Quite important. So at the time of recording, this is the latest version, so you go ahead and then you simply download that. Okay, so once you've got all the necessary stuff downloaded, let's go ahead and see how we can install Flutter. So I have already downloaded these, okay, and we are going to extract it, and you can see you are not supposed to install it at a directory like this, okay, because it requires special privileges. So when you're on your PC, when you try to install something, mostly you get that UAC pop-up that you have to confirm, okay? You don't want to install any place that needs those privileges. So personally, I have a special place I like to install it. So from my previous video, I still use that. So I'll just show you where I like to install it, and I've had success with it without any issues. So I'm going to minimize this, and I'm going to open up this folder. This is why I have all the downloadable all the files I have downloaded right here. So this is the Flutter. I'm going to double click on it. You would need WinRAR, WinZip to open it. I believe you could just use File Explorer to also extract it, the default Windows Explorer, but I have this. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to extract it to that special place. Now I could hit extract to and then navigate through all of this together, but it's a little bit of work, so I like to do it this way. So this is Windows version 22H2 like I mentioned earlier, and it comes with a lot of improvements. So if you notice in the File Explorer, you can simply hit this plus and you can open another tab, as you can see. So you don't have to open another File Explorer to do any side thing. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on this PC, and then you click on your drive C. My drive C is an SSD, and I recommend you try at least to get an SSD to host your operating system and a few heavy things like maybe Android Studio, VS Code, just a few things. If you can afford like 100 gigabytes to 150, of course the more the merrier, because it will make things run smoother and faster. Okay, it just makes your PC feel like it's brand new. Then you head on to your users directory, and over here you simply select your name. So you're going to find your name here. So this is my high school Nikki. I don't know, it still remembers it. So Prolex over here, so I'm going to double click that, and I'm looking for a folder called app data, but for some reason you cannot find it, except we can find it. So we go to the view tab, we go to show, and then we simply check this hidden items. Okay, and you can see we have the app data showing and probably some items we are not supposed to see. So while still here, I'm going to go ahead and also go to show, and I'm going to check this option. Now you would notice I have these checkboxes to enable me easily select. So that's this right here. I'm going to also enable file extensions, so it's a lot easier for me to see my file extension. So you can see this .dat. I don't have to right click and check properties before I know what file it is. Okay, so now that we can see app data, I'm going to open this and then go to local. So this is where we want to place it. Now you can open this app and then drag this in there. Okay, so the main thing is wherever you extract your Flutter, if you want, you can extract it to the desktop and run it from there. I wouldn't do that because I don't know, I just don't think it's a safer place to put it there. You may delete it by mistake, anything could happen. So if you extracted it here, you can then drag it into this place. Now one thing in doing this is while trying to drag this here, you may mistakenly drop it in one of these folders. Okay, and that just gives you another directory. So to prevent that, okay, what I like to do is go back one step, and then where we have local, I'm just going to drag the folder into local and then release it. So this is going to go ahead and extract. It shouldn't take much time, and I think I'll be back when this is done, because yeah, I wouldn't want to waste your time. Okay, so that's done and we don't need this anymore. I can just close this. Let me just center this a bit. So we can open up this folder and you can see we have Flutter in here. Now open up the Flutter folder and then dive into the bin folder. Okay, and we wouldn't do anything really here. We just need to grab the address. So you click on that and you can just Control C. You could also just copy from here. Okay, and if you're not sure about what you're doing, to be safe, you can also just open Notepad and then drop the link in there just in case you mistakenly copy something else. So I'm going to minimize this, and that's just it. So going back to the browser, you can see after downloading, we need to update our path. So this is our next step, updating our path. To update our path is quite simple. So we need to go into our path environment variables, and to do that you just type in env and then you hit that, and then you click on environment variables, and then you need to select path right here, and then you click on edit. Okay, so once you are here, just click on new and then paste that link so you can copy it back from here. So let me click on new again. I still have it because I've not copied anything. I can paste that link right here. Okay, so once you're done, just click on OK, and then click on OK. Okay, so that's that, updating our path. Now let's go ahead and then test. So we need to run Flutter Doctor to see the things we are missing, so that we can go ahead and then fill them up. Okay, so let's go ahead and run Flutter Doctor. So you can open up your favorite terminal, command prompt, whichever should work. So I'm going to use terminal from Windows 11, and I think it's available for Windows 10 also. And we just need to run Flutter. Did I spell that right? Doctor. Now I would add a -v so that it logs a verbose, so it gives you more details. Okay, so I'm going to hit this, and if you've updated your path correctly, this should work. On one instance, I've experienced that it didn't work even though I did it right, and all I had to do was to restart the computer for it to pick it up. So in case you run into that, then restart your PC and then give it a go, but make sure you update your path like I did. Make sure you follow the steps, update your path, and I believe you shouldn't have any issues. So far I think, yeah, we are on the right path. So as it stands right now, of course we're going to have issues, but the main thing is, if we needed only Flutter and that mission accomplished, okay, right here, but then we are missing some things from Android Studio, and we are going to get like the Android toolchain, all of these things, the licenses, we are going to get it from Android Studio when we install it. We already have Chrome browser, so no problem, and then we are also missing Visual Studio. Okay, so we would go ahead and start installing the rest of these things. Okay, so I'll close out of this. Let's visit the browser and let's see. Oh, that was weird. And let's see what we have. So we've completed a step. That's a whole lot. And now Android setup. Okay, so the next step is to install Android Studio. Now you do not need to follow these steps. How do I put it? You don't need to follow these steps in the same order. You can pretty much install the things in any order. Okay, install them in any order, but make sure before you run and try to run Flutter and everything, you have everything installed. That's just the main thing. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to install Android Studio. So I'm going to minimize this and go back into the apps, and I'm going to run Android Studio. Please don't take so much time. I'm running this on my laptop, which is an HP Omen 17. I think it's the old one. Yeah, so if you hear my fans blowing out as if I'm in a jet, yeah, please bear with me. So I'm going to confirm this. So hit next, make sure that's checked, hit next, and of course on my SSD, I can't stress that enough. So, and then just wait for this to install. The funny part is, this part of the installation doesn't keep long. It's the next stuff after this that's a pain. Okay, so that just completed. I'm going to hit next, and then they're asking us to start Android Studio. So I'm going to hit finish, and Android Studio is launching scene. So do not import anything. Android Studio Dolphin. I think the last time I installed Android Studio it was Chipmunk. I may be wrong, but yeah. So okay, I'll just send. Let's say next. So go with standard, dark of course, and then it needs to grab all of these things for us. So you can see the setup type, the standard, all of that. That's what you're going to get. So the total download size is going to be that. So I'm going to hit next, and we need to accept a license for that and the license for that. So if I minimize this, you can see it's just these two, but as they are expanded you may get confused and think each one of these are separate licenses. Okay, so go ahead and read everything. Okay, I've read in advance for you guys, so just click on accept, and then for this also click on accept. Then you have finished, it's ready for you. So hit finish. This is going to go ahead and install a bunch of stuff. I think pretty much about 8 gigabytes worth. So this is just a waiting game, and then how fast your internet is. So my internet is not the fastest, so I'll be back when this is done. And it's done. So yeah, that was quite a bit of waiting. So go ahead and hit finish, and then you have this Android Studio interface. So at this point, what we want to do is install the Flutter plugin. Not really necessary if you're not going to use Android Studio as your development environment, but just in case some of you want to, then you simply go to where you have more actions here. Oh, sorry, before that, before this, you go to plugin. So that's where we need to go first, and then search Flutter, and it should be the first one. Just hit install, accept, and then another pop-up because it's going to install that, so you install that. So once the two are done installing, you'll be prompted to restart. So we are going to do that quick restart, and we should have Flutter now available to be created as a project, or the option to create a Flutter project. That's what I should be saying. So now we have that option here. Okay, so the next thing we need to do, okay, is to create our virtual emulator. So we can visit the browser, and then we can see some of the things we have to do. So we have to install Android Studio, and then we need to set up the Android device. So this is if you are going to use your actual device, okay, your actual Android phone. If you are going to use, then you need to turn on USB debugging, and also you need to have the Google USB driver because you connect it via a USB cable. And so we are going to skip this part, but then we are going to set up the Android emulator. Okay, then after that we go ahead and then we accept the licenses. Okay, so I'm going to minimize this. So to create, we need to go to more options, and then we need to visit. So before I go to the virtual device, I'm going to go to SDK manager, and well, according to Android, it downloaded this API level for us. That's fine. Sometimes it doesn't, so that's something you need to take note of. Sometimes it just behaves weirdly, but anyway, we need to head on to the SDK tools, and then make sure you have this SDK command line tools. Check that, and then this is the Google USB driver, so this way you can get that. Okay, so once you hit apply, it is going to download something little 493, I believe. No, that's not that. 123. Okay, so click on OK, and then this shouldn't take that long compared to the first one. Alright, so now that is completed, we go ahead and hit finish, and we are literally done with this place. So we can hit click on OK, and we can now go ahead to create the virtual device. So I'm going to click on this. Now if your PC, be it a desktop, laptop, doesn't support virtualization, so I think it's mentioned somewhere here, if I can find it. So VM acceleration, so virtual machine acceleration. If your PC doesn't support that, you cannot create a virtual machine. It's literally what you need to be able to do that. Your PC needs to support that. It's a hardware thing and not a software you can just install. Okay, and I'll try and insert a short video of me recording my BIOS to show you how you can do that. Every PC is a bit different, but you get the general idea. It's going to be a terrible video though, so yeah. Anyway, so this is me just checking my BIOS. Now this is HP, so F10 to go to BIOS after a restart, and then that's the virtualization technology you need to make sure it is on. So we can see by default Android Studio has created one emulator for us with this API. Now sometimes you wouldn't see any, so in case you don't see any, just click on create device, and then you need a phone, so you can go ahead and select the size you want. Of course, please do not pick any of these are like the very old ones, so stick to the modern pixels that are here. These ones just mean they have Play Store included. So I like to pick like bigger screens. I don't know, I just like to, but let's see, what's the second biggest? 6.4. I'm not so sure because some of these can be buggy sometimes, so that's why I'll just stick to pixel 6 and then click next. Oh, and I forgot one thing. Let me go back to previous and okay, no, I didn't. I thought I'd skipped that part, so I'm going to hit next, and then this is, we have the API already downloaded. Now in case you come here and it's not there, just hit download. So these are the available ones. So if you're an Android user, you would know about Nougat, Oreo, Pie, and all the weird names they give their API names. So we have this current one, so there's no need to download, so hit next. And then this is where I thought I had skipped. So you can give your device a different name and portrait mode, and then here make sure you change it to hardware. Okay, if you have a dedicated card, it will really help you. If you are using an Intel graphic based PC, it would also help you. So we are going to show advanced settings here. The reason I'm showing the advanced setting is to increase the internal storage. So I'm going to select a gig here, and then I'll set this to about 2 gigabytes. No, let's make it 3. I'm doing this because in the past, let's say sometimes you have multiple projects or you're just trying out different things. The virtual device gets full, and this is responsible for the internal storage. So when you leave at 800 megabytes, you get to a point you have to delete a project to be able to run another project, and you don't want that. So once we're done with that, we can hit finish. And that is how you can just create your own, what do you call it, virtual device. So if you already have one, cool, you can just run it. Then this is how you create your own. So I'm going to run the one we just created by hitting the play button here. So while this is okay, so if this pops up for network, just accept it and allow access. So while this is running, you're going to hear my fan start spinning. So if we go through this, we are being told to accept the licenses, so you can see all of these things. And then in Android Device Manager, click Run Toolbar. The emulator starts up, displays the default canvas for your selected OS, blah 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 blah. Anyway, so that is what's running here. So we are going to go ahead and then accept the line. So you can see before you can use Flutter, you must agree. So I'm going to click on this to copy the code. You can also just type that out if you're not as lazy as I am. Okay, and I'm going to minimize this for the meantime. So whilst that is starting up, I will just open up the terminal. So and I'll go ahead and paste anyway, and let's wait for this to okay, I was about to press enter, but then I'll just wait for this to run. So apparently when you just paste it, runs. So you need to press Y to accept, press enter. So these are the licenses, read everything. So but you don't need to worry, I've read everything for you. So another Y, so another Y. So just agree to everything by tapping Y and pressing enter. So now everything has been accepted, so we can close this for the meantime. So once this is done, we've created our emulator and it's starting up, we can close this. So this is for those of you that want to use Android Studio as your daily driver. Now you can create a Flutter project by clicking on this. So you get that from installing the plugin. If you don't install the plugin, you don't get that. So we are going to select Flutter. Now you notice the Flutter SDK path is missing. It's not there. Okay, so there are a few ways of getting this. So if you still have this, okay, if you still have this, make sure you copy this. Do not include the /bin. Okay, you can copy this part and then paste it in there. Okay, now if for some reason you lost it and you're having issues, click on this and then you are essentially going to navigate to where you extracted your Flutter folder to. Okay, so I'm going to expand my drive C and go to users, and I'll go to my name and then app data. But you see, we cannot see app data here. Click on this. This will allow us to see hidden folders and files. So we now see the app data. Expand it, go into local, and then select Flutter. For this one, we do not need to go into the bin folder. It's not needed. So we select Flutter, okay, and then hit OK. So just like I pasted, hit next, and then basically you give your project a name. So this, I'm going to call it YouTube_test, all in lowercase, and you don't give spaces or else it will complain. And then just leave a little description there. Alright, so this is fine. So if you want to build and support all the platforms, then you let them be checked. If you just want to support Android and forget about the rest, then you can uncheck them, but I'll just suggest you leave them on, and then you hit finish. So Android Studio is then going to take all that information and then create your project for you. And so far so good. Let's just hope nothing crazy happens, because as computers, you can never predict what may happen. I may do this smoothly, no issues, and then you try this and you run into issues. But in case you run into issues, be sure to hit me up in the comments, and I take my time and I would answer everybody. Okay, nobody is left out. I want to be the Santa of Flutter installation, something like that. No kid left behind. Anyway, just want to position this a little bit. So I'm going to just click here to get rid of that. So at this point, it is almost done indexing. So you can see a lot of things going in there, the Dart packages and everything. I'll just hit apply code style and let it do, even though I'll not be using Kotlin here. So essentially, this is just the main file. So this, when you run your project, this is the file that runs and shows whatever application you have or something like that, whatever you've coded. It starts from this main.dat. So if for some reason you don't see this and you have something like this, just come here and then navigate to project, go into your lib folder. So the lib folder is what contains your file. So basically, this is where you start creating all your files, your models, your views, and all the good stuff, starting from inside the lib folder. Okay, so at this point we can try running this to see if we've met it, but before I attempt that, let's take a look at what we have left. So we've accepted the licenses, and then you can see that for Windows setup, there's an additional Windows requirement, and we need Visual Studio or the Visual Studio Build Tools. Either would work, and you can see they're even saying that the two are different. Okay, the two are different. So this will help the support for desktop if you want to build for desktop. But if you will not support desktop, then it's not really required. But I'll suggest you just have everything set up running perfectly. Okay, so I'm going to minimize this, and before I forget, I'm going to go ahead and install VS Code and then set up Git so that we have almost everything done, because the biggest of our downloads is going to be the Visual Studio, which is kind of yeah, if you don't have good internet like I do, it's always a headache to download huge things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and, oh, you saw me check some of these things. I just want them enabled, but make sure add to path is checked, and then hit install. This shouldn't take long. Alright, so installation of VS Code is done. We can hit finish. Alright, so of course dark theme, no, I'm just going to just say mark everything done. We can always deal with it. So this is VS Code, really cool text editor. Okay, and what you want to do is install the Dart and Flutter plugin. So you click on this, that's the extensions, and then you simply type Flutter and then hit install. So just click on install, and that is going to go ahead and install the plugin needed for us to run Flutter in VS Code. Now while you're here, you could install awesome Flutter snippets, which is from Nivash Ramdial. I hope I haven't butchered the name. We can hit install, so we have those two installing simultaneously. And yeah, we can come back and look for extensions later, but I'm just trying to get the necessary things done. And as we hear, one of my themes I like to use is IU. It's called IU. So just this one. Yeah, and I like to use IU dark, just like that. So if I make this full screen and probably bump up this size a little bit. Mine is so dark I can't even see. So we can hit the gear button here, and then we can go into color theme, and then you can use your up and down arrow keys, and I'll go with IU Mirage. Let me see, bordered. Okay, I think I'll go with bordered. That makes a little bit more sense. So I'm going to search Flutter again, just to see if it's done. So Flutter is done installing. Okay, you can see that. So once I click on this, see, it tells us to open folder and all of that. I'm not going to do that. I'll just right click and then pin it to my taskbar so that I can easily access it, and I'll do that to VS Code also. And I'm going to close this for the meantime. So the last thing I'm going to go ahead and install is Git. And I like to install so accept this, and I like to install VS Code before installing Git, so that I can use VS Code as the default editor in Git. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to check this, and this will enable me to use Git within terminal easily, so I don't go through any hassle. So I'm going to hit next, and here this is where I'm going to select VS Code, not the insiders but just the Visual Studio Code. And literally that's it. It's just going to be a journey of next till we are ready to Flutter. This shouldn't take long, but I'll be back when this is done. Alright, so now that this is done, I'm just going to uncheck this and I'm going to hit finish. Alright, so I'm going to minimize this, and I'm going to go ahead, open up Android Studio again, and I'm going to hit the play button here so that we can run this here and see how far we go. So this is where you need to pray nothing goes wrong, or else you're going to go through a process of debugging and trying to figure out what's happening. Now the initial run can take some time, really does take some time, so you just need to be patient with it. And so hopefully nothing happens, and I'll be back when this has actually run onto the emulator. Alrighty, so this is done, and wow, you can see all that it had to go through. Okay, and I think it will do this all in once, just if nothing terrible goes on. So this is the default should I say app that is there for you. You click on this and it counts and all that. Okay, so literally that's it. If you're going to just build for the phone, you don't care about supporting desktop, then that's it, you're done. Okay, but I'm going to go ahead and finish up everything. So I'm going to terminate this, and I'm going to go ahead and go to file and then close the project and close this. So literally we are done with Android Studio. There's literally no need for me to open it again unless something else changes or I needed to do something. So I'm going to leave this running because I also want to open up Flutter, and I would just lay this. Let me see, can I use fancy zones to get the structure I want? Okay, so I don't get the emulator. Okay, probably just drag it this way. Alright, so over here I'll just click on open folder. You can also go through file and then open folder. Did I say file? Let me just check that. File, open folder, and then you just need to navigate to where you have the previous Flutter project we created with Android Studio, and that's usually, so that's right here, but to show you the full part, you go to this PC, drive C, users, and you would find, so your name, and then you should find Studio Projects. Okay, this is created by Android Studio by default. If you don't want to save your projects here, then when you are creating it, you can change the location. So it's that simple. So I'll double click here and select this, just the folder YouTube test, and select folder. So we go ahead and trust this, say yes, and I'll close this. And do you want to use the recommended view set? Yes, I'll say yes. Not now. So when I go on to the lib folder, that was hard to see, and I click on the main.dat, you can see it's literally the same thing. And because of the IUDAC, this is the theme and style we're getting. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and install one more extension, and that is for the icon, so VS Code icons. There you are. Because I do not like the way these are just like arrows. It's a bit difficult for me to see what is what. So this is just an extra thing, okay? And of course, feel free to polish your VS Code as much as you want if you're going to use VS Code. So yeah, so we can select the main.dat, and then you notice we have this play. So if you click on this arrow, you have run, start debugging, or run without debugging. I'm going to click on run without debugging, but before I do that, I'll just check down here. So this is where you can see whether your emulator is running. By default, it will default to, I think, Windows. Okay, it says 4 devices connected. So this is what I was expecting. So you can see Pixel, so that's what I have, Chrome, Edge, and then Windows. Now if I try to run on Windows, I'll get an error because the support for Windows hasn't been installed. Okay, but I can still run this on the Pixel that is right here. So let's test that and see that's also working. So I'll run without debugging, and hopefully it doesn't keep long like before. So I'll be back when this has also fully run. Yeah, so like I said, that didn't take as long as the first run in Android Studio. So yeah, pretty much we could have said we are done. This is where I ended the other video that I made. But to include Visual Studio, I'm just going to terminate this. So we have all of these features because of the Flutter extension. I'm just going to close this and close this, and I'll also terminate the emulator. Let me say close it. Now go back to the folder, and then we run the Visual Studio setup. So this is just a very small file. We click on yes, and then we click on continue. So I like to always say this is the most painful part of setting up Flutter, in fact, for me, because it has to do a lot with, well, having data and then downloading a huge file size. So I think if you live in a part where internet access is very easy and it's fast, then I don't think you have any issue. You would rather have your problem being somewhere else. But I pray in the near future the Flutter team thinks of a way of getting Flutter installed in a more seamless manner. Alright, so all we need to do here is install the components. So like I said, Visual Studio is a very powerful IDE. It could do so much. Okay, so if you want to do web and then cloud development, so you can use any of these. If you want to do desktop and mobile, you can select any of these, of which we will come to. And if you want to build games, you get that. If you want to do other toolsets, storage, like so many things, it's a very powerful IDE. What we are interested here is desktop and mobile, And in the desktop, we just need the desktop development with C++. How do I know that? It's stated in the document. So if you look here, we need the desktop development with C++ workload installed for building Windows, including all of its default components. So we just simply need to check this, and these are the default components that it's coming with. I'm sure if you're using the paid version, you're going to get a whole lot of things, but this is all we need. Okay, now if you needed this for some other projects, maybe you wanted to do some Python development, all you have to do is go ahead and check these. So as you check this, you can see the size required to download. So let's say I need to do that, I need to do some Node.js development, and maybe I need some .NET and maybe Universal. So you can see this could grow to like a very huge size to download. So I'm going to go ahead and uncheck all of these because I do not need them. And did I check any other thing I don't need? Now I'm regretting doing what I did. So let me just be sure. So I'm going to go ahead and let me uncheck this. So this is unchecked. Guys, can you see anything? So I believe I have unchecked everything. So all I need to do is now, not that. So this, okay, desktop development with C++. Do not select this. Okay, do not select this. This is for, I think, Xamarin. So select desktop development with C++, just make that check. And that is 9.42 gigabytes. So this is the part that is going to be something you have to just wait and hope you have a fast internet. If you have a fast internet, good for you. So I'm going to hit install. And literally it's a waiting game for me. This is going to take quite a while. My internet is not the best. And I'll be back when this is done. Okay guys, that took a while. And yeah, so that's good news. We click on that and literally that's it. We don't need Visual Studio for anything unless you plan to use it in the near future for development. So I'm going to go ahead and just close this. I'm going to do a quick refresh. Open up my terminal, and then we are going to run a quick Flutter Doctor. So using the up arrow keys, you can access commands you've written earlier. So Flutter Doctor-V, and let's hope we've checked all the boxes. So we already know that. Okay, so as you can see, we've checked every box here. So we have the Flutter installed, Android toolchain, Chrome, Visual Studio, Android Studio, VS Code. It's not a requirement, but if it's there, it detects it. And then we've also created our Android emulator and all of that. So yeah, this is it for the complete video for installing Flutter on Windows 11. And I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, if you have any issues, don't be shy to leave a comment in the comment and I'll be sure to answer it. So again, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I wish you all and your significant other and family the very best. Thank you. I'll see you guys later.